Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com, or at this week's episode of the FNM Spotlight. In this series, I try to showcase the deck that I'm going to be playing at my local game store for the Friday Night Magic tournaments. This week we are doing Standard and then Frontier, and so this is the first week that it's legal. Aether Revolt is legal in Standard, and I have brewed up this juicy little brew. I don't know why I did not choose Indomitable Creativity for my top 10 list. The more I look at the card, the more I'm absolutely in love with this card. It is 3 mana and X, destroy X target artifacts and or creatures for each permanent destroyed this way. Its controller reveals cards from the top of his or library until an artifact or creature card is revealed and exiles those cards, or that card. Those players put the exiled cards onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library. So, pretty powerful if you can set up a deck where you are using this to your advantage. And when I thought about this card, I thought all about Noxious Gearhulk. Noxious Gearhulk was really cool because if you use the Indomitable Creativity on one of your cards and one of their cards, they're going to end up getting a creature, most likely, and then Noxious Gearhulk's be able to take care of it if you happen to hit it. So usually build this deck with Indomitable Creativity. I have a lot of experience with cards like this because I played a polymorph deck in Modern where you polymorph tokens that had to hit Emrakul, because it's the only creature you have in your entire deck. So this is similar. This can also, Indomitable Creativity can hit artifacts or creatures. So your deck, you don't want to run any artifacts or creatures except ones that you want to hit no matter what. And then you have to have targets for the cards to kill. In this case, either I would say like clue tokens or just regular tokens. In this case, I chose to go with black because I wanted Noxious Gearhulk. At first, I thought SRAM's Expertise that puts in 3/1/1 servo tokens is the best way to abuse Indomitable Creativity, and then you'll go get 3 creatures. And then like even Thraben Inspector puts out a creature and a clue, and you can kill both of those, and it will hit 2 creatures off of it. But I thought that black was a little more versatile with the targets it can hit than white. There wasn't a lot of, besides like Emeria Shepherd, there wasn't a lot of, I think this, or Maria, whatever the angel is, where whenever you play land, return a card from your graveyard to your hand, or put it on the battlefield if it's a plains. Besides that card, there wasn't a lot of targets you want to reanimate. I did think about the Gisela Brizella, or Gisela Bruna combo that can flip and then become the Bracella, but it's usually on cast that's the best way to hit it. I mean, that actually wouldn't be terrible. Maybe we'll look at a white version instead of a black version, because that's a pretty easy, if that's the only 2 cards you run in your deck, is Gisela and Bruna, then off of like a SRAM's Expertise, you're more than likely going to hit one of each. And the Giselas you can actually cast early, and you can even kill a Gisela to go and say you have a Gisela and a few other tokens, you can actually target it and kill it, and hopefully you'll find another one off the top, as well as the Bruna. But Bruna only triggers on cast, so Indomitable Creativity just puts it right into play. It's not like Aether Marvel, and therefore it's a little bit harder to. Even though if you get both of them, then eventually they flip and then turn into the monstrosity. But with this one, we're getting the ATB Enter the Battlefield triggers happening off of both the Noxious Gearhulk and the Combustible Gearhulk. I thought of Skysovereign Consul's Flagship. I should probably put one in the sideboard just in case. So let's come over here, Skyship. And I'm going to throw one over in the Consul. Isn't it called Skyship? Maybe not. It's the Skysovereign Consul's Flagship. That's right. Put one of these over in the sideboard. And then maybe just cut a Filigree Familiar. I don't know. We'll probably just end up cutting a Pick the Brain, as I'm not too worried about getting rid of Emrakuls these days. So sideboard, of course, is open to interpretation of whatever you want to put in the deck. We'll get to that in a second. But I still think that Noxious Gearhulk and Combustible Gearhulk are the 2 best options to reanimate. The Combustible Gearhulk will draw you or put a bunch of cards in the graveyard. If the cards that go in the graveyard can be these higher converted mana cost cards like the Noxious Gearhulks and the Ever Afters, and then even like from one of the Floorboards that can dish off a ton of damage. Then you still have a 6/6 first strike card that your opponent has to deal with. So the whole idea of this deck is to put out enough tokens to then abuse with the Indomitable Creativity. Hopefully you want at least 2 or 3. You're going to be casting this Indomitable Creativity as 6, and getting minimum of 3 cards off the top. Sometimes you just want to do it for 1 or 2. It's just going to guarantee that you get a Gearhulk no matter what. So we are going to start off with just kind of a madness package. We have the Fiery Tempers that work off the Cathartic Reunions and Tormenting Voice. These are used early to deal with your opponent's threats. So Lightning Axe and Fiery Temper can kill 2 cards. Doesn't really put you back that much because it's just 2 for 2. You can also madness the bidding off of a Lightning Axe. So instead of just hard casting the bidding, you can Lightning Axe and then madness it, and you get 2 zombies for later use for the Indomitable Creativity. We also have one of Call the Bloodline. This actually might just be enough, rather than, because you can just get rid of. You might want to go into 2 other madness-based cards. There's like the Alchemist Greetings, or even the Murderous Temptation, I think is what it's called, or Murderous Temptation, that you can destroy target tapped creature. Madness for 2 mana, and then Madness, you can do it at instant speed off of cards like Call the Bloodline. So Call the Bloodline could easily be the good token generator rather than one of these, but these both do have Madness as well. That's one of the reasons I like him in this deck. From one of the Floorboards, if you have a lot of mana left over off of like a Tormenting Voice, you pay the 2 and then pay the 2 Madness, and then whatever leftover mana you throw into Madness, and you get a number of zombies, as well as drawing the cards off of the Madness. That's probably the options that I would go with. I don't think that there's anything else too crazy besides a Dark Salvation could be the other option. Just, it's sorcery speed, and then it's just 1 mana, and then however many you want to throw into X, it will give a creature -1/-1. Usually I like to put in at least 4 mana into this card, and then it gives a creature -2/-2 because you usually have 2 zombies. But you never know if you've used it after like a bidding on turn 3. You could actually cast it for 5 mana, and then there would be 4 zombies. You can actually kill off anything that is a 4/4 or has 4 toughness. So keep that in mind. It's in here as a 1 of in the sideboard. You could definitely put it in the main, or I just don't know how powerful it'd be. The only time I've really been successful with this card is in conjunction with Cryptolith Rite. So there's that. Other cards that are worthwhile reanimating, a Demon of the Dark Schemes is nice. Voldaren Pariah works very well in this Madness type deck. And the Void Winnower, I think, is still the best just card to cheat in a player reanimate. So I might just end up putting the Void Winnower in the main. We'll have to wait and see after some playtesting. And again, this has been 100% unplay tested. So the other cards I thought about is just Filigree Familiars, as even though you can hit them, that's not too terrible if you hit them off of because they're going to draw you a card for the Indomitable Creativity, and then they will get you 2 life when they come into play. There might be better stuff. There's also the 4/4 or 3/3 for 4 mana that when it dies you do kind of the, what's the mechanic, the Bloodbraid Elf mechanic, you cast a card, so you go through your deck until you have converted mana cost 3 or less. The problem with that is you can actually hit your Indomitable Creativities for 0, and so I didn't decide to go that route. There might be some other hidden gems. A Herald of Anguish. Herald of Anguish I thought is something that's worthwhile to reanimate, and those might get the nod over Combustible Gearhulks. Combustible Gearhulks, a lot of times when I end up playing them, end up being kind of lackluster. But the good news about Combustible Gearhulk, if we get up to 6 mana, we can just hard cast it. Whereas some of these other cards, when you're getting up to 7 mana for the Herald of Anguish, since we have no way to cheat it out, it's kind of hard to cast. And same thing like the Void Winnower. So I want to keep with cards that I can cast. The Consul's Flagship's weird too, because there's not a lot of stuff we can crew with. Our zombies are 2/2s. They're not 3/3s, so it's kind of hard to get some value out of this. But it does have the Enter the Ability effect that can trigger off of the Indomitable Creativity. And so that's the gist of the deck. Radiant Flames I still think is probably better than Yahini's Expertise. But Yahini's Expertise can actually cast like a Fiery Temper off of it, or even, that's really all it can cast. So a Cathartic Reunion or Tormenting Voice might be a little bit too hard. So that's why I decided to go with Radiant Flames. It just seems to be like the better option for a sweeper. Comes out a turn earlier. And we're not doing a lot. It comes out really before we're doing from under the floorboard or the bidding. So this honestly should be a 4 of in the deck. And we might, well, with the Radiant Flames though, it's only going to do 2 damage with how we have it built. How we'll probably need to do is replace some of these mountains with Aether Hubs for the Radiant Flames to work. Or we can just bring in like the blue-red or blue-white Fastlands as other ways to actually get the most value out of Radiant Flames. So what I'm trying to say is this deck does need some work. Otherwise, we can just go to the Yahini's expertise. But that's just the idea of the deck, is to ramp out or try to just buy a lot of time until you can get a bidding up to a couple, even just 2 biddings is probably enough to get value out of the creativity. But even the front of the floorboards, you gain 3 life off the zombies coming in. You sack the 3 zombies because it comes out on curve. Turn 5 this, and then turn 6 the Indomitable Creativity. And then you end up getting 3 dudes, like Combustible Gearhulk, Noxious Gearhulk, for example. Or if you have to use the Indomitable Creativity against your opponent and yourself, you do have the high chance of getting the Noxious Gearhulk. And speaking of which, too, if you just go all the way into like the Demon of the Dark Schemes, Pariah has so much synergy from under the floorboard. You can sack the cards later on to then flip the Voldaren Pariah. All of those, there's tons and tons of synergies in this deck. So that's really why I like it. Let's rename this. This is going to be Indomitable Creativity. Some of the things that I've also wanted to do with Indomitable Creativity, on my Patreon, if you're interested in becoming a Patreon, you do get the option to vote on the deck that I'm going to do next with the top 10 list. And right now, the last vote, they voted, and the Pia's Revolution, I believe is what it's called, overwhelmingly won the vote. And therefore, that's the card I'm going to be building with. And it probably will have Indomitable Creativity in that build. Pia's Revolution says if an artifact, a non-token artifact, would go to the graveyard, or does go to the graveyard, I can't remember if it says would or does, then it either goes back to your hand or your opponent has to pay 3 life. And then run it with a bunch of cantrip type artifacts like Prophetic Prisms or a lot of the implements from the new set. And so they'll go to the graveyard. The opponent has the option to either let them come back to my hand, and I still believe you do get to draw the card off the implements. And then how I'm going to have the sack outlet is probably going to be through Indomitable Creativity. So be looking forward for that brew. That's another kind of exciting way we can go with it. Again, we can go with the Bruna route, the Bruna and Gisela route, which I don't think is too terrible. I thought about even going into blue for Tormenting Gearhulk, and Tormenting Gearhulk can get back the Fiery Temper and the Unlicensed Disintegration, as well as a few other decent targets to get back. And then instead of you could actually go into Goblin Dark-Dwellers, which has a nice little synergy, enter the battlefield type effect. That could actually go in this deck because you do have Fiery Tempers that can hit. I just don't think it has enough synergy to make it worthwhile. There definitely have to be more Unlicensed Disintegrations in the deck to really justify going for the Goblin Dark-Dwellers. Another thing you can do with Indomitable Creativity is maybe just go an all-out combo with like Brood Monitor type cards. I do like it in Eldrazi decks, like Brood Monitors, Eyeless Watchers that bring in, you can even run Panharmonicon. Panharmonicon can easily go in this deck as well, because you could hit Panharmonicon and a Noxious Gearhulk, for example, will trigger off twice, or a Combustible Gearhulk. So that's something I'm going to throw in the sideboard real quickly. I don't know how many. And so let's throw this over. I'm just going to throw it out over other cards that we've been talking about, Goblin Dark-Dwellers. I think this version would definitely want to go more into the Tormenting Gearhulk route. So Goblin Dark-Dwellers can hit the Unlicensed Disintegration or Fiery Temper. Panharmonicon triggers it twice, and it could get a ton of value. But I just don't know exactly if that's the route I'd want to go. Yeah, there's just a ton of different options with the Indomitable Creativity. It is a high-risk, high-reward card. And I think that this is just a starting point. I don't think that this is anywhere near tuned. And I think with a little bit of tuning, we can find the right numbers. I'm sure I've visited Ishkana. Ishkana is another card that seems good with it. You know, you have the 3 spider tokens that then can become the targets for the Indomitable Creativity. You destroy all 3 of them, and you get 3 cards, just possibly like Noxious Gearhulks and stuff like that, in like a Jund base deck, or if we're still into green, in just a green tokens base deck with Brood Monitors, Ishkanas, Eyeless Watchers, those type of cards. So we'll try those brews out again. None of these are legal right now on MTGO, so we're gonna have to wait for the Aether Revolt to come out. Another thing I wanted to talk about, maybe we'll do it in a separate video. Now, let's talk about it right now, is how well Indomitable Creativity actually fits in some of these decks that I've made for Frontier. And the one I really like in Frontier is the Frontier Impact Tremors. This is not bad at all. The only problem is it is a little bit high converted mana cost, but with cards like Hordeling Outburst, destroying 3 Hordeling Outburst tokens to then get, even if you get just some pretty bad cards off of it, like hit Foundry Street Denizens, for example, that's not too terrible, as they will come into the battlefield and trigger off the impact tremors. But imagine if you get like Hordeling Outburst and hit cards like Pia and Carondelar or Goblin Rabble Masters off of it. You can swing in for some insane damage. If you go into like the Thopter Engineer strategy, Thopter Engineer and Pia and Carondelar and Hordeling Outburst with Indomitable Creativity, you can definitely hit a lot of high impact. It's like doubling your amount of cards with the Indomitable Creativity. For each token you kill, it's probably going to generate a card that leaves back more than one token. So just a couple of those ones that I think would fit very well is this Jund Tempest type deck. Hitting off like the Thopter Engineers and the Piandalars and Weaponcraft Enthusiasts. That card's still legal in Standard. I didn't want to put it in the Standard-based deck because it could hit subsequent Weaponcraft Enthusiasts. But, I mean, at that point, we could actually even build a Weaponcraft Enthusiast deck with Indomitable Creativity and then put in the Marionette Master, as then, if you have a late game, you actually can kill off all the tokens and then it can go get Zulaport Cutthroats or subsequent Marionette Masters. I mean, that's always a good, that doesn't seem bad at all. And then like a Crypto with Right type deck, you can go crazy with the Indomitable Creativity, generating just a ton of mana and then killing everything that just tapped for mana to then go replace it with more stuff. So I'm really liking like a Frontier deck like this. Speaking of other Frontiers, the Frontier deck that I built with the, let's see if I can find it really quickly here. The Frontier, should say Tooth and Nail. But anyway, the combo was you get Dragonlord Kolaghan and Dragonlord, or not, Dragonlord Kolaghan and then the rare Atarka, which gives double strike to all attacking dragons. And Dragonlord Kolaghan gives haste. I should have one here in this one sideboard. Dragonlord Atarka, of course, would be a nice one to hit with the Indomitable Creativity. But the Dragonlord Kolaghan, there it is, gives all your creatures haste. And then just imagine if you have something like the Cryptolith Right out and the Thopter Engineer, all of those cards now gain haste, and you can actually tap them for mana. Just a lot of shenanigans that you can do with this Indomitable Creativity. So I'd like to know your interesting cards that you are putting in with Indomitable Creativity, any other Standard-based decks or Frontier especially. Modern, I think that Polymorph is probably just as good. I don't see maybe using the Creativity over. It's a little bit easier to cast, I know, than... Because don't you have to sacrifice 3? No, you don't. It's just 1, I believe. So there's a higher payout possible with it. If you're using more than just... Like, I've seen other Polymorph cards, like, use Elish Norn. And in that case, they run, like, a bunch of value-based creatures. You can cheat into so many cards. It's just a matter of time, but I think this card becomes broken in various strategies. It's not hard at all. Even just on 4... If you are guaranteeing you get an Emrakul, that's pretty big. And there's very few decks that actually can come back from that in Modern. So let me know in the comment section your most creative, way to play Indomitable Creativity. I'll let you know how my Standard deck does at the Friday Night Magic. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.